looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it, so there was a huge illuminated triple six in red.
In 1998, a relatively unknown television interview with Mel Gibson sat buried in network archives for over 2 decades before mysteriously surfacing on social media platforms, immediately going viral and sparking unprecedented controversy across Hollywood. What made this footage so explosive wasn't Gibson's typical promotional soundbites, but his unfiltered revelations about encounters that left him questioning the very nature of the entertainment industry. What compels a successful actor at the peak of his career to risk everything by exposing the darkest secrets of the system that made him wealthy? And why would someone voluntarily destroy their own livelihood to warn others about dangers they claim to have witnessed firsthand? The answer lies in what Gibson described as a spiritual awakening that occurred during his early Hollywood years. He explained that certain encounters with industry elites revealed a level of moral corruption so serious that staying silent would have been, in his words, a betrayal of everything I believe in. Gibson's motivation wasn't financial gain or publicity, he already possessed both, but rather what he termed a divine obligation to expose the darkness. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. During that fateful 1998 interview, Gibson's demeanor shifted dramatically when discussing his observations about Hollywood's power structure. "The system is completely based on money," he stated, his voice carrying an unusual intensity. But underneath that surface, there's something much darker operating. He described attending industry gatherings where conversations took disturbing turns, revealing attitudes toward women and children that shocked him to his core. Gibson recounted specific incidents where producers and executives discussed their projects in language that seemed coded and deliberately obscure. They would talk about special arrangements and private ceremonies in ways that made my skin crawl, he revealed. These conversations often occurred during what appeared to be routine business meetings, suggesting a level of casual acceptance among participants that Gibson found deeply troubling. The actor's voice trembled slightly as he recalled a particular evening event where the discussion turned to what he euphemistically called ancient practices. As he later reflected, the words of Ephesians 5:11 echoed in his mind. "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." That biblical passage, which his grandmother had taught him as a child, suddenly took on new meaning as he witnessed behavior that contradicted every moral principle he held dear. Gibson's decision to speak publicly about these experiences marked the beginning of what would become a decades-long campaign to expose what he believed were systematic abuses hidden within Hollywood's glamorous facade. Following his disturbing Hollywood revelations, Gibson made what he considered a natural decision, seeking support from the institution that had shaped his moral foundations since childhood. In early 2003, as pre-production for The Passion of the Christ intensified, he approached the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops with genuine hope for endorsement and spiritual guidance. We all face moments when institutions we trust turn their backs on us, leaving us questioning where to find truth and spiritual guidance. In those dark times, having access to genuine revelation can be the beacon that guides us through uncertainty. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. The response left him devastated. Cardinal Thomas Murphy, then a prominent figure in the USCCB, declined Gibson's request for a private meeting within 24 hours. "They wouldn't even hear me out," Gibson later confided to close friend and producer Steve McAvity. "I'm trying to tell the most important story in human history, and they're treating me like I have the plague." What followed was a series of rejections that Gibson described as more painful than any Hollywood betrayal. Archbishop William Skylstad issued a terse statement distancing the conference from Gibson's project, citing concerns about theological accuracy and potential divisiveness. The irony wasn't lost on Gibson. The very institution founded on Christ's message was rejecting a film about Christ's sacrifice. During a particularly difficult phone conversation with Monsignor Francis Maniscalco, the USCCB's communications director, Gibson found himself quoting Matthew 23:27 directly. "You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead." The Monsignor's silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. Gibson's spiritual advisor, Father John Bartunek, privately warned him about forces within the church hierarchy that opposed traditional Catholic teachings. "There's a parallel structure operating," Father Bartunek explained during a clandestine meeting at Gibson's Malibu estate. "They wear the same robes and speak the same language, but they serve different masters." This revelation connected disturbing dots for Gibson, who began recognizing similarities between Hollywood's hidden corruption and what he now saw within church leadership. The most shocking moment came when Cardinal Roger Mahony of Los Angeles publicly criticized Gibson's project before even viewing the script. "How can they condemn something they refuse to examine?" Gibson asked his wife Robin during a sleepless night. "Unless they already know exactly what they're opposing and why." Dr. Michael Brown, a Messianic Jewish scholar who supported Gibson's project, offered perspective that crystallized the director's growing understanding. "They're not rejecting your film," Brown explained. "They're rejecting the message itself, the same message that threatens both Hollywood's darkness and the counterfeit church's agenda." This institutional betrayal hardened Gibson's resolve while simultaneously isolating him from the religious community that should have been his strongest ally. The realization that corruption extended beyond entertainment into sacred institutions marked a turning point in his spiritual journey. The encounter that would haunt Gibson for decades occurred during a seemingly routine casting meeting in Beverly Hills during the spring of 2003. A prominent actor, whose name Gibson has never publicly revealed, had expressed interest in joining the Passion of the Christ project, despite the industry's growing hostility toward the film. The meeting began normally in the actor's private office, decorated with awards and memorabilia from a distinguished career. Gibson brought along his usual materials: script excerpts, historical references, and artistic inspirations for the film's visual approach. The unnamed actor appeared genuinely interested, asking thoughtful questions about the project's scope and Gibson's directorial vision. The conversation took an unexpected turn when they began discussing the film's more intense scenes. "We started talking about the scourging sequence," Gibson recalled in a private journal entry he later shared with trusted friends. "I was explaining the historical accuracy we wanted to achieve when he interrupted me with this strange smile. When powerful institutions close their doors to truth seekers, alternative sources of wisdom become invaluable. Our exclusive ebook offers the insights you need during times of spiritual uncertainty. Only a few copies remain available in the pinned comment below." What followed chilled Gibson to his core. The actor began describing various torture methods with disturbing enthusiasm and intimate knowledge. He wasn't talking about the film anymore, Gibson confided to his spiritual advisor. He was describing techniques like he'd witnessed them personally, maybe even participated. The actor's eyes took on what Gibson described as an otherworldly darkness, as he detailed specific methods of inflicting maximum pain while prolonging consciousness. Gibson attempted to redirect the conversation back to the film's spiritual message, but the actor seemed incapable of focusing on anything beyond suffering and torment. I started quoting John's Gospel about Jesus taking away the sins of the world, Gibson later explained. The moment those words left my mouth, his entire demeanor changed. It was like watching a mask slip away. The actor's face contorted with what Gibson could only describe as pure hatred. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, and Gibson felt an overwhelming sense of evil presence. I remembered my grandmother teaching me 1 John 4:1. Test the spirits to see whether they are from God, Gibson recounted. In that moment, I knew exactly what spirit I was dealing with. Without explanation, Gibson gathered his materials and left immediately. The actor called after him, but Gibson never looked back. I've never run from anything in my life, he later told his brother Donald. But every instinct I had was screaming danger, not physical danger, but spiritual danger. That evening, Gibson knelt in his private chapel and prayed for protection and discernment. He became convinced that he had encountered something far beyond ordinary human evil. The actor never contacted him again about the project, and Gibson made it clear to his production team that under no circumstances would this individual be considered for any role. The experience reinforced Gibson's growing belief that his film was facing opposition from forces far more sinister than typical Hollywood politics. The revelations about Hollywood's hidden practices came through a source Gibson never expected: a veteran makeup artist named Catherine Mills, who had worked on major productions for over 30 years. Following his disturbing encounter with the unnamed actor, Mills approached Gibson privately during a chance meeting at a film industry charity event in late 2003. "I've been watching you fight this battle alone," Mills whispered as they stood near the refreshment table. "There are things you need to know about what really happens behind closed doors." Her hands trembled as she spoke, and Gibson noticed the deep exhaustion in her eyes, the look of someone carrying unbearable secrets. Mills revealed that certain high-profile productions served as covers for ritualistic gatherings held in private mansions throughout the Hollywood Hills. "They call them creative sessions," she explained, "but there's nothing creative about what I've witnessed." These ceremonies typically occurred during the final weeks of major film productions, when cast and crew were already bonded through shared work experiences. She described elaborate altars constructed in basement chambers of expensive estates, complete with ancient symbols that predated modern religious traditions. "The first time I saw one, I thought it was just eccentric Hollywood decoration," Mills confided. "Then I realized they were functional, actively used for purposes that would horrify normal people." Gibson's blood ran cold as Mills detailed the involvement of A-list celebrities, powerful producers, and studio executives in these gatherings. "They believe they're tapping into ancient power sources," she explained. "They quote from texts that aren't in any Bible, speaking languages that sound prehistoric. The rituals often involved symbolic sacrifices using elaborate props, though Mills suspected some ceremonies went far beyond symbolism. Gibson's search for authentic spiritual guidance mirrors what many face today when traditional sources fail them. If you're seeking proper understanding, our free ebook provides the clarity you've been looking for. Few copies still available in the pinned comment. When Gibson asked why she was sharing this information, Mills quoted Leviticus 18:21 from memory. "Do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of your God." Her voice broke as she continued, "I've seen too much to stay silent anymore. Someone with your platform needs to expose this." Mills provided specific names, dates and locations, information that Gibson meticulously documented in encrypted files. She warned him that these networks extended far beyond entertainment, involving political figures, religious leaders, and international business moguls. "This isn't just Hollywood corruption," she emphasized. "It's a coordinated system that's been operating for generations." The conversation lasted less than 20 minutes, but it fundamentally changed Gibson's understanding of the forces opposing his mission. The retaliation began within 48 hours of The Passion of the Christ breaking box office records in February 2004. Gibson's phone started receiving anonymous calls at 3 a.m., featuring nothing but heavy breathing and whispered threats in languages he couldn't identify. His Malibu security team reported unusual activity. Unmarked vehicles parked for hours outside his property gates, always departing before authorities could investigate. Hollywood Reporter published the first in a series of character assassination pieces, questioning Gibson's mental stability and suggesting he was suffering from religious delusions. The articles contained personal details about his private life that only someone with access to confidential information could have known. "They're not just coming after my career," Gibson told his attorney, Patricia Glasser. "They're trying to destroy my credibility as a human being." William Morris Agency dropped Gibson as a client without explanation, followed by Creative Artists Agency and International Creative Management within the same week. Industry insiders who had praised his work for decades suddenly refused to return his calls. Director friends who had publicly supported his film privately admitted they'd been warned against association with him. The most chilling incident occurred during a family dinner at Nobu Malibu in March 2004. Gibson's 8-year-old daughter noticed a man at a nearby table photographing their meal with a telephoto lens. When Gibson approached the individual, the man calmly stated, "Your children have beautiful smiles. It would be unfortunate if something happened to them." Security footage mysteriously malfunctioned during the exact time frame of the encounter. Gibson's spiritual advisor, Father Jonathan Morris, received similar intimidation. "They broke into my rectory," Father Morris revealed during a private meeting. "Nothing was stolen, but they left a single black rose on my desk with a note quoting Revelation about the lake of fire. The message was clear." Studio executives who had previously courted Gibson for projects suddenly found scheduling conflicts whenever his representatives called. One brave producer, speaking anonymously, admitted, "There's a list circulating. Mel's name is at the top, and anyone working with him gets added. It's career suicide." The psychological warfare intensified when tabloids began publishing fabricated stories about Gibson's family, alleging everything from substance abuse to domestic violence. Each article contained just enough truth mixed with lies to seem credible. "They're following the classic playbook," noted crisis management expert Howard Bragman. "Isolate, discredit, destroy." Gibson found solace in John 15:18, which he often recited during sleepless nights. "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first." The verse reminded him that persecution often confirmed he was walking the right path. Despite mounting pressure, Gibson refused to retreat. Each attack only strengthened his conviction that powerful forces desperately wanted him silenced, validating everything Catherine Mills had revealed about Hollywood's hidden networks. Sometimes the most important revelations come when we're forced to look beyond corrupted systems for truth. Our free ebook addresses these very struggles with genuine spiritual insights. Act quickly. Only a few remain in the pinned comment. By 2018, Gibson had transformed from Hollywood insider to dedicated whistleblower, channeling his experiences into exposing global child trafficking networks His collaboration with Tim Ballard's Operation Underground Railroad marked a new chapter in his mission to protect the innocent. "This isn't about my career anymore," Gibson declared during a private fundraiser for anti-trafficking organizations. "It's about honoring Matthew 18:6. Anyone who harms these little ones would be better off drowned in the depths of the sea." His voice carried the weight of a man who had witnessed unspeakable darkness and chosen to fight back. Gibson's documentary work took him to Ukraine, where he uncovered trafficking routes that generated billions annually. Working with former intelligence operatives, he documented evidence of systematic abuse involving political figures, entertainment executives, and religious leaders across multiple continents. The networks Catherine Mills described weren't limited to Hollywood, he explained to investigative journalist Sarah Carter. They're international, organized and protected by people in the highest positions of power. The actor's Malibu estate became an unofficial headquarters for survivors and activists. Maria Santos, a trafficking survivor from Eastern Europe, credited Gibson with funding her rescue operation. "He didn't just write a check," she testified. "He personally coordinated with law enforcement to ensure my safety." Gibson's foundation quietly financed dozens of similar rescues, operating through encrypted communications to avoid detection. His upcoming 4-part documentary series promises to expose the financial mechanisms sustaining global trafficking. "Follow the money," Gibson told his production team. "These operations require massive funding, sophisticated logistics, and protection from prosecution. That level of organization doesn't happen accidentally." Despite continued threats, Gibson remains undeterred. His security detail has thwarted 3 attempted break-ins at his property since 2020, and his vehicles are routinely swept for tracking devices. "They want me to live in fear," he acknowledged during a rare public appearance. "But perfect love casts out fear, and protecting children is the highest form of love." If these insights resonate with you, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your super thanks support helps us create more content like this. Join our community and stay connected. Gibson's transformation from entertainer to activist demonstrates that individual courage can challenge systemic evil. His willingness to sacrifice personal comfort for truth-telling has inspired other industry figures to speak out about similar experiences. "History will judge us by how we protected the most vulnerable," Gibson concluded during his most recent interview. "I choose to be on the right side of that judgment, regardless of the personal cost."